Y'all can wear headphones if
All
you
right,
want.
You don't have
everybody,
to.
we
You
are
don't
trying
have
to
to.
get everybody in the studio here for
We have got a crowd
Keith
today.
Durham and the Heritage Automotive Hour. Keith, the mics are on, everybody's up and running.
It sounds like everybody's up and running. That's good news.
All right, very
I got
good.
to turn my phone off first thing because it will be going off. Well, you know, we got a good day in front of us today. We got some special guests here today. You know, from time to time we said that we'd have special guests in the radio station and talk to them. And today we have Tom and Barb Suter with us. And we won't call you new to Lawrence County. You guys are not new to Lawrence County. Tell us a little bit about how you got to Lawrence County. And you know, Tom is a pastor and a retired pastor. He is a member of Emmanuel Baptist Church, he and his wife, and they come to my Sunday school class, and they've got a very interesting story. And so we're just going to highlight you guys today and talk about some things that you're doing. And tell us a little bit about your journey.
Well, Keith, it all started in 1968.
Hey, my life started in 1968, so that was a good year. We'll take that.
Well, we moved to Lawrence County to First Baptist Church in Iron City.
Okay.
And it was quite an interesting experience for me as a young pastor just starting out. I've often said that was boot camp for pastors.
So we may have some new listeners that don't know about Iron City. Now, Iron City is a great place, number one, and but my dad told me, and you call it boot camp probably for a reason, but my dad told me if he ever caught me driving in Iron City, he would take my license away. And you know, but I drove down there all the time. I just never told my dad. So anyway, Iron City is a great place, and you got your start down there. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but go ahead and start.
Well, we spent a couple of years there, and then
Wonderful people.
Yeah, absolutely.
great
Wonderful
folks. We enjoyed that time. In fact, we still have contact with the folks there.
Oh,
Of
okay.
course, a lot of them have passed on now, but
Sure.
the young people are like me. They've gotten old white-headed.
And the community has changed a lot, you know, since 1968.
Yeah, it has.
The industry is different down there and things like that, and so it seems to be a little bit more laid back these days down in Iron City. So it's so what happened when you left Iron City?
Well, we went to First Baptist Church in Watertown, which is in Wilson County.
Okay.
And we've had a long ministry, 52 years. Barb and I spent 10 years in Europe as missionaries.
Oh, wow.
And I was pastor of the International Baptist Church in Vienna, Austria for 6 years.
Okay. That's amazing in itself. So then you came back to the States.
We did. We came back to Lebanon, Tennessee, where I served 7 more years before finally retiring.
Okay.
The third time.
So what the irony of the situation is that I guess if you would call it irony or classify it as irony, is that you pastored a church called Emmanuel Baptist Church, and now you're a member of a church called Emmanuel Baptist Church in two separate cities,
Right.
which is amazing in itself. Well, you know what we came here today is we came here today to talk about a book that I have recently read that was written by your wife, Miss Barb, who's here with us today, and. You know, when I read this book, it's a story of tragedy to triumph, if I might say it that way. And it's a book that a lot of people should read, I think, because there's a lot of people who suffer from what you endured as a child, and they may not know how to deal with that situation. And so we want to talk to you a little bit today about the book that you've written. It's called Journey from Scared and Scarred to Sacred. And, you know, it's a journey about your childhood. And what I thought was neat about it is, and I talked to you about this a little bit before, is that it's a book that's written in first person. I mean, I can hear you speaking these words, and it's pretty neat. And I've got some things to add on to that in a few minutes, but first, tell us about what inspired you to write the book in the first place, Barb.
Well, this is a subject a lot of people don't talk about.
Sure.
And sometimes when I would share, and I didn't start sharing about this for a long, long time, but I noticed that when I would speak in a to a ladies group or to even a Sunday school group and just mention in passing, you know, I was abused by my father. That's all I would say
Sure.
about it. And people would come to me afterwards in tears and just say, oh, you have? Tell me about it, or let's talk, or something. And I remember once I was sharing at a conference in Denmark. We were there, we served there 1 year.
Sure.
And just in passing, I mentioned that in relation to the topic I was talking about, and this lady came to me afterwards, and she said, now I know why I had to be here in Copenhagen, Denmark today. And she said, I've never told anybody, but I've lived with this fear, this scares, this shame of abuse. So after that, I thought, this is a story that a lot of people need to hear,
Yeah,
or that
absolutely.
they have this pain in their life. And and then somebody told me after they read the manuscript before the book was published, they said, I have never heard or read somebody share a triumph from that kind of pain. I've heard of alcoholics and drug addicts and other addictions, but I've never heard a personal story of this.
I would totally agree. That's the first time that I had read a story like this also, and the courage, number one, the courage it would take to even write a book and even admit things like that.
Right.
It is that things like that have happened in your life. A lot of folks like to just pack those things away and just keep them secret, and that doesn't help out at all, does it? To do that.
No.
One of the things that what are the statistics on this? How many people, how many young women and young children go through this in their life? Is there some statistics
Well,
on that?
yes, and in fact, I reread this morning the pages in my book on the statistics, and I cry. I usually cry every time I go back and read the statistics, and they have not changed, Keith, over 100 years.
Yeah, the percentages haven't changed,
Percentage.
right?
They say 1 in 3, and some reports will say 1 in 4 little girls are abused, sexually abused, by the time they're 18.
Wow. So that that even reaches folks that's listening to us this morning. That could be the exact situation that they're going through too. Somebody that was abused.
And
by a parent
what
or-
shocked me with this is it's 1 in 6 boys.
Wow.
Some people raise that a lot, but it's now pretty clear.
Wow.
And so that's a lot of people out there. They say there are between 42 and 60 million of us
Oh wow.
who are living today,
Yeah.
and most have never told.
Wow. Maybe by reading your story, they get inspired to do that, because doesn't that provide some relief or closure per se? I know that yours is. When we read this book, I see your relationship with the Lord growing, and the way I do that is, and I don't want to give away everything that's in the book, because I want people to go out and buy the book. You can get this on Amazon.com. That's where I went and got the book, and it's called A Journey from Scared and Scarred to Sacred, and it's written by Barb Suter. So if you just go to Amazon.com and search Bob Suter, you'll see that book pop up. But it's you tell this story of your childhood, and you do it through a series of journal entries, and so that intrigues me a lot. I have. Oftentimes, I've always wanted to start a journal or anything. So is this something you've done your whole life, is kept like a diary or a journal? Or when did you start that? I noticed the earliest one I saw was like 1994.
Right.
That's in the book. I just...
No, that's the earliest one,
Okay.
because when we went to Europe, I just got rid of lots of things, and I threw away my earlier journals, and now I'm so mad at myself. Why did I do that? But yes, I've journaled. I've journaled most of my adult life, and but in journaling, I always leave a time to listen to what the Lord is saying, or I write back what I hear and what I say to Him, and those are the parts that I write in the book, because they kind of go with my journey to. You have to find. Well, you learn forgiveness.
Yeah.
And when you do forgive, whoever. And there are lots of ways that people have been hurt, but forgiveness begins when you have the Lord and
Yeah.
you want to forgive, and then through that you just grow and learn, and when you're secure in who you are, then you can share.
Yeah,
You can
absolutely.
share what happened, whatever happened.
So you know, reading those journal entries, I see this, if you will, I see this maturity in your journal entries, starting in the ones that were in 1994, going on up to the ones in the mid 2000s, and that you start off somewhere in the journal itself. You always refer to your relationship with the Lord, and then as you progress, and what I see it as your maturity as you progress, and you start off with praising the Lord and the things that He's done for you that day, and that was a blessing to me to read those things. I want to read you a journal entry right here. This is the one dated August 30th, 1994. It says, "Whatever comes in my life this day, heartache, sorrow, joy, or happiness, I am to live, to walk, to exemplify my life of Jesus. Every thought, every relationship must be pure according to your word and truth." So it's like you're writing this to Christ Himself.
Right, yes.
You're writing a note. You're writing a note to the Lord. I think that's so cool because a lot of, you know, when I think about keeping a journal every day, I try to keep a journal of the things I do, and so I can go back 20 years from now and look and see what I've said and done. But you know, you're writing things here that take account of your relationship with the Lord, and I think it's awesome that you do that. And it says, "Show me your ways, not mine, not the world's, but your clear, compassionate way of love and forgiveness." And that is the theme that runs through this book is the way that you get triumph is through love and forgiveness, and you can't do that apart from Christ.
Right.
And so, what a great message that this book has. Jeff, you have a break for us lined up, and we'll come back and
I sure do.
all right, and we'll come back and talk about the book.
We can take a weather break, right?
Sure.
All right.
You guys want some coffee?
No.
I'm doing it right now. It's really good.
But he said it still goes on Facebook, right?
Oh, yeah.
So.
So you can act goofy if you want to.
I would like to say more about, or if you can, for people who've never told,
Okay.
you know, I've said that, but, and because of the figures, we know that,
And then before we leave, I want to talk about your volunteer work that you're doing here in the community and in the organization that you're doing. Are you okay to talk about that a little bit?
yes,
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Fred. You're tuned in to WDXE AM 1370, 105.3 FM, and around the world at WDXE.com. Also on Facebook now, live streaming, and on YouTube. And our guest host today is Keith Durham, and he has special guests with him here. So,
All right, I'm
Mr.
back.
Keith, you're back.
I'm back with Barb and Tom Suter here, and Barb's talking about the book that she has written, A Journey from, I get this backwards every time, A Journey from Scared and Scarred to Sacred. It's about her journey from growing up in a home with an abusive parent to triumph in the Lord. And Barb, one of the questions I want to ask you is, what about, you know, we talked about the numbers a few minutes ago. 1 in every 3 girls, maybe 1 out of every 6 boys go through this. And when I was reading through your book, you have some, I guess, testimonies or some other people who have been through this, which is, I think it's awesome. They tell their stories also. And one of the things I noticed in there, it wasn't always a parent. It was, but most of the time it was somebody in the family, and that's hard to comprehend. Is that it's a family member that does that. And I guess that's the thing that probably silences or keeps the person silent more than anything is the relationship outside of the abuse. And so, what about people who are going through this and people who maybe never told their story. Do you have any advice for maybe, and I'm not talking about just young people. I read in here about a lady, what's her name, Dolly? Was she in her 90s when she told about her story?
Yes.
Did I not read that wrong?
No, that's right.
Okay. So you know, we got folks of all ages that may have been carrying this with them their whole life, and what a burden to carry. So what kind of advice could you give these folks?
Well, Dolly, she's 94 today, and I emailed her.
Oh, wow. So today's her birthday?
No.
Oh, no, no, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take it.
No, but yeah, she had never told. She tried to tell somebody once, and you know, that was before any laws could have helped her, so she never told. And then after somebody had read my book, and he texted me one day, a 74-year-old man. Was a minister, and he said, "I have never told a soul bar, but I was raped by my uncle when I was 12 years old." So, and he had never told. So he said, "I think I've worked through it," but he said, "Your book has helped me." Just has helped me, you know. So, because he went on to become a minister, and I've gotten so many comments of that. Even on the back of the book, there's a story of a 75-year-old lady who just in the last couple of years told her best friend that they've talked about everything for years, but she said, "I just felt like I had to tell her." And when she told her, she said her best friend told her that she had been abused. So it's very prevalent. I mean, if we think 1 in 3 and 1 in 6, it's out there. And like you said about family members, but 90% of all sexual abuse for children is from someone they know.
Wow.
And trust.
Sure, yeah.
Neighbors, uncles, just somebody. But
so, and it's usually somebody that's left in their care.
Right. Yes. Yes. So my advice is, and you know, you don't have to write a book about it, and you don't even have to speak about it, but you need to tell somebody.
Yeah.
It just gives a release. Excuse me. Like you said, carrying a burden for all those years, and you live life, and some people, and I do say that in the book, some people are not damaged for life in a way that they can't live. Most of us go through life and we do okay.
Yeah.
But there's a way to do it better, you know, just to live in happiness and in freedom from the shame that you may have carried.
So I want to ask you a question, and you don't have to answer this. What gave you the most freedom? We talk about, and we can read in the book about how strong your faith is, but what provided the most freedom? And we're going to talk about your relationship with Tom, because I think it's an awesome relationship, and especially the way I read it in the book here. But was it the point of forgiveness that gave you that freedom, or was, I hope that you have experienced that freedom, and what can you point to one thing that says, yeah, that gave me that point of freedom?
And I have chill bumps now, and I always get.
And I don't want to put you in that situation.
No. It's great. I think as I learned that Tom accepted me.
Yeah.
With the scars and the scares. I mean, God always accepts us.
Absolutely.
But when you know that somebody that you love or you trust accepts you with those, and he doesn't hold those against you, and he doesn't think you're bad. Living in that freedom, it just, and I kind of say that in the book, I don't know which came first, you know.
Right.
But just knowing you're loved and accepted with your past. We all have a past.
Yeah, absolutely.
Know? So, and when it's a bad past, for somebody just to accept it and love you in spite of it gives you so much freedom.
That's right. And you bring up a good point there. You know, God loves us in that way regardless. You know, even in the lowest places in our life, we still have a Heavenly Father that loves us.
Right.
And you bring that out in the book so good. And you know, even if you're listening to this show or watching this show on the air, and you're going through these situations, and maybe there's nobody close to you in your life that you can say, this person loves me. And always know that God loves you, and He has a better place in life for you to be. And so I want to read something to you that I found I didn't find it out of place. I found it inspiring more than anything. Maybe, hopefully it's inspiring to you, but I think, I read this book here, and it's written in first person, as maybe not an autobiographical book, but I don't even know if that's even a word, but but in a way, this is a true story, and you're telling this story of your life. However, I believe there's a novelist inside of you. So, and there's a paragraph in this book that stands out, and one of your chapters starts, and you're talking about your childhood and the love of reading that you have. And you were talking about the little post office in the town that you lived in, had a little library there. And then your grandmother had this library of Grace Livingston Hill books, and she's a Christian author, and then also Zane Grey Westerns, and how you got in there into reading those books. But the paragraph under that I found amazing, and this is what sounds novel to me, and that I think that you've got a novel inside of you somewhere. I want to read this paragraph to you. It says, and you're talking about your love of reading here. It says, I didn't just read, I became the heroine, the princess in every story. Hours, if not days, were cocooned in fantasies. I had no doubt a prince dressed in armor. And I think about Tom when I say that. I had no doubt a prince dressed in armor would appear on a white horse and carry me away from the chaos, the chatter, and the confusion in our large household. Each day promised I would be a princess as I lost my heart. Each day promised I would be a princess as I lost my heart in fantasy. I survived piles of laundry and the hours spent at the ironing board and cooking and waiting. The night would come, or perhaps I would kiss a frog. And so I thought, man, that's pretty novel right there. And Tom, are you her frog? I guess.
I don't want to croak on the radio. Yeah, I guess I am. Still
the reason I say that is just a couple pages back, there's a journal entry that goes along with this chapter that's read. And I want to read this journal entry too, because this was done on March 14, 2000. So you think about that, it's been over 20 years ago. So it's pretty neat. And this journal entry takes you back 36 years from that point in your life. So 36 years ago today, real life began. And so first off, I'm thinking, what happened 36 years ago before March 14th, 2000? Was that the day you met Tom, or the day y'all got married?
That's our anniversary.
Okay, so that's your
our
anniversary.
wedding day.
Okay, cool deal. So I think this is a great entry right here. It says, 36 years ago today, real life began. It is in being loved and accepted, one learns to love another. I found this love and acceptance in Tom. I pray I have returned this gift as purely and as completely as it has been given to me. I awaken sometimes in the night, thanking you, Father, for our lives together, for our marriage, joying in the glorious plan for your children. I long to fill these pages in gratitude to you. I bow in silence, simply whispering, thank you for this gift. The comfort and confidence of God's love are fully evident as I receive Tom's love. I am content, safe, and secure. This, I believe, is God's miracle for marriage. I mean, wow, that is awesome. I mean,
did I write that?
Yeah, you wrote that. It's in your book.
I know I did.
That is so awesome right there. It's not just poetic. It's romantic, and it really, to me, it is the bridge builder in the book. As your relationship with Tom, from what I have read in these pages, is the bridge builder. Apart from your faith, it is the bridge builder that helped you close out this chapter in your life, if you will. So I just think that was that was just a great.
I'm so glad you read this book, Keith.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I'm telling you, you're going to miss out if you don't get this book and read it. You're really going to miss out on a great story, and hopefully it's going to have some impact on the folks that's listening today that may have been through this process or through these types of events in their life, and give them some encouragement to speak out. That's what I'm hoping.
Right. I mailed a book to my granddaughter. No, she'd ordered one, And she's our oldest granddaughter, and she has a little girl just turned 7, and I always send them books, so they just knew this book was from their gram, and so Evelyn Jane kept wanting to see the book and know what it was about. She said, "No, you can't see this book. It's Graham wrote this book," and she said, "What's it about?" And she said, "Well, Graham was hurt when she was a little girl. And she wrote this book to tell others that Jesus can help them when they get hurt."
Wow.
So I thought that was a sweet explanation to it. She was about 6.5 then, to a 6-year-old. And basically, I thought that's true. I was hurt as a little girl, and I've been healed, but, and I want to help other people. I want to tell other little girls how to be healed.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, you're going about it in the right way here, because you're using, number one, you're using your relationship, not only with Tom, but you're using your relationship with the Lord to convey your story. And I believe we said this earlier, if you're going through this type of situation, there is no real healing, and there is no real forgiveness apart from Christ. And so that's what you bring out in this book. And there's one other thing that you talk about a lot in your book, and maybe we can talk about the struggles with this, and maybe people are thinking about this. One of your chapters is called "Trusting is Possible." So is trust, is that the hardest thing to regain, is trust, and trust in what? Is that a fair question?
Right, it is. And I do a lot of reading on this, because if a girl, if they've been abused by a father, a grandfather, an uncle, somebody they trust, then that trust is broken.
So it's not just broken for that family member, it sort of breaks the trust for almost that whole genre of people,
Right, for other men, and also, and there's, of course, young men are abused by mothers, and we can't even comprehend this, but yeah, trust is totally broken.
Yeah.
It was a long time before I really knew that I could trust God. I mean, my salvation, took a while.
Yeah.
But to trust somebody else is really hard.
Yeah.
And it is possible, but as you forgive yourself and know God loves you, and
Sure.
Yeah, it is possible, but it is difficult for that to come back.
So that might be one of the most difficult things, is to regain the trust. On the journey itself.
Right.
Okay, so while we think about these things, Jeff, you got some commercials lined up for us, some words that we can do?
Well, I just remind everyone that, of course, we're listening to WDXE, AM 1370, 105.3 FM. 71 degrees outside, and it's the Keith Durham Hour, brought to you by Heritage Automotive.
We've got to find a name for this show. I don't like the Keith Durham Hour.
You don't like it? Well, I'm just making it up on the fly. So
that's okay. You can say it.
You've got a very interesting show. I've been fascinated myself with this, with the story, and it's made me want to get the book for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to get your own. You got to get your own book.
I've already looked it up on Amazon. You've got a lot of 100% positive reviews all the way. I was reading some of the reviews on the book, and just awesome. And thank you for sharing that with us this morning. But to answer your other question, Keith, no, I don't have a commercial.
Okay. So Jeff was.
I thought we were off.
So Jeff was.
So we're all on.
Yeah, we're
all on all the time.
We're okay though. We're fine. But Jeff, you was surfing Amazon.com, wasn't you?
I did. I went ahead and I jumped on Amazon and looked. I was like, okay, well there it is. I found you pretty easily, very easy.
So one of the last things I want to talk about the book itself is the stories of the ladies in the back. So you tell your story, and then I didn't count them, but there's probably 6 in the back. Okay.
There could have been 600.
I'm sure.
But how many stories do we want to read like that?
Yeah.
That's why it's a short book. It's only 150 pages.
Right.
But there's 6 I know them all well. So if I know 6, then you know 6.
Right.
You really do.
So that was the question I was going to ask you. This is not something that the editor just stuck in the book.
No.
These are folks that you know maybe that you have a special relationship with. And,
yes.
These folks are all special to you. Does any one story stick out more than any of the others? Some of the other ladies here.
Well, the story of Jenny is most painful. I don't know, they're all painful. I mean, the one of Lydia just makes me angry. It was her neighbor. She was 5 years old in a swimming pool. I can get angry. But Jenny was raped often for 5 years with a live-in boyfriend of her mother's. And Jenny, what she's growing, she knows God loves her, but it's still a struggle.
Sure.
It's still a struggle. And a lot of times people who suffer this kind of abuse, they become drug addicts, alcoholics. Jenny became both, because from 5 to 10 years old, she was abused like this.
Yeah.
So what do you know? I mean, we see people all day and we might judge them for how they're acting, but we don't know.
That's right.
How they're hurting. And but that story really, really hurts me. And that she was willing to share that with me. But she goes to AAA every day. AA, is it just AA?
Yeah. I've never been, I think.
No, but AAA is triple.
Yeah,
triple A. So anyway, but all of their stories, I've loved all their stories. I used to, some days I just sit down and read it and I can't believe it.
Yeah.
I just can't believe it. Their stories are my stories or where I am today, but everybody, it can be, it's
You mentioned Jenny here, and I'm looking at Jenny's story, and I've read Jenny's story, and she talks about her being a recovering alcoholic and drug addict and things like that. And to me, when I read this, it's a direct, that is a direct effect from the things that she did suffer in her life.
Right.
I guess people get involved in that, looking for that freedom that they can't, that apart from the Lord you can't get. I guess that would be the best way of putting that. But I think it's great that you have these stories in here, because your story is unique. Maybe not unique to you, but it is your story. But other people have different variations of the same type of story and same type of abuse, and that's what I like about these pages back here in the back. So if you're listening today or you're watching online, and maybe if you're going through this, the biggest thing, the first thing to understand is that the Lord loves you. God loves you, and regardless of where you're at in life, God loves you, and He wants a better day for you too, and He wants a better life for you. And you don't have to turn to drugs and alcohol. Just take a break and take a stop and just pray about it, number one, and ask God to make it a new day for you, to change your life. And I like that you send us in this direction. And we think about Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, and we think we live in a community that maybe this doesn't apply to, okay? On the top of my head, I can't think of anybody that's going through this situation, okay? And maybe a lot of us are like that, and that's the world we live in, when in fact that's not true at all. And so go ahead and elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, I was in a salon here just a few weeks ago, and somehow it comes up, or what do you do? And I'd said I'd written 2 books, about this one, and so I told her about the first one, Whispers on the Journey. It was a happy book to write, but then I said I have written one on childhood sexual abuse. She stopped. She looked up with tears in her eyes and she said, I was abused. I'm going to get that book.
Wow.
Well, if I hadn't mentioned it or whatever, she might not have said that. So it's here.
Yeah.
And someone at our church bought the book, and I hope several have.
Yeah.
But she came up to me a few weeks ago and she said, I haven't gotten past page 52 because I cry so hard. I'm crying so hard because it's too close to home.
Wow.
But before she had got the book, she told me, I was abused, but I worked through it. But she, it comes close to home to a lot of people. And even if that does, then you can walk through it to make sure you've released the shame and you accepted forgiveness.
And that sort of segues us into our next part of this conversation is the things that you're involved in today. you know, I applaud you, number one, that you just, okay, I wrote a book, I'm an author, I've got 2 books. I haven't read Whispers on the Journey yet. I'm gonna get that book and read it. And maybe next time we have you on, we'll talk about it. But is there anything else you want to talk about in the book before we go into a different part of our conversation? Is there anything that we didn't bring out in the book?
No, I think that, I just wanted, when we were talking about Jenny, on
Yeah.
one of the on my statistical pages, and to me, I think everybody should read the statistical pages first.
There you
You
go.
say, oh, no. But I want to read this one. It says, the stress and fear inflicted upon an abused child create haunting memories and physical scars. But research today has shown it damages the brain. They can, the MRIs can show you the abusive damage done to
Wow.
a child. It shows up.
Wow.
And so once the abuse subsides, the individual has to have help. You have to get some kind of treatment. A lot of people with abuse have PTSD.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just, I don't know, sometimes now I say I can almost talk to somebody and see the hurt in their eyes.
Yeah.
Women suffer from depression at an alarming rate, and I think, I always ask myself, or I want to just hug them and say, do we need to talk? But you can't do that, you know.
Yeah.
But,
Well,
but
one of the things that I love about your book, and you've got a lot of statistics in there, is that, and I talked to you about this the other day, is that one of the things that I found about the book is that it's not clinical. Most of the time when you read about a book that's written in this type of context, it's more clinical and it's more about the numbers and it's more about the treatments. It's not about telling your story and finding forgiveness and things like that, and told in a first person way. And I think that's what the beauty of this book is. I think it's just awesome. But going into our next conversation, what about the things that you're involved in today? You know, we think we may live in a community that, well, we don't have very much child sexual abuse here and things like that, but the reality of the story is I was mayor for 12 years, and you wouldn't believe the things that go on in our community, and it's heartbreaking that we have to have organizations that even deal with these types of situations. And you're a part of one of those organizations now, right? And tell us about the work that you're doing, the volunteer work that you're doing here.
well, I learned that Lawrence County has a really good program for women of domestic violence.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I just became interested. Well, at first I just wondered how my book might help that
Sure.
that organization.
Yeah.
And so, but in talking with that and talking with the lady about that, I learned that I could be a volunteer. So the domestic violence has a boutique, Crossroads Boutique in Northgate Plaza.
Okay.
And it's strictly run by volunteers and donations.
Okay, so let's stop a minute and let's let the listeners know where Northgate Plaza is. It's right behind Crystal. So if you're in Lawrenceburg and you're going down the strip where Crystal's restaurant is, there is a boutique back there. How does the boutique operate as far, and what can you get inside the boutique? Talk about
Well,
those
it's
kind of
for
things.
women. It's
Okay.
only for women.
So there's no men's clothes up there.
No
I can't
men's
go get a pair of
clothes, no.
shoes. Okay.
Yeah, and no children's. If we do get children's donations, we give those on to, I think, First Baptist or First
Okay.
Kid, you know, that, and they do an awesome job of furnishing children in need. But this is simply funded by or run by donations from women who clean out their closets or change clothes, and so we go through every piece for make sure it's good. I ironed 4 hours yesterday.
Oh my goodness.
Not solid, but anyway, so it's a very well done, set up boutique. The manager.
So that goes to benefit women who have been battered and things like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
but our listening audience needs to know that, you know, if you do have it's springtime now. If you're doing some spring cleaning, there is a place that you can take those clothes in your closet to benefit women here locally.
But you can also come and shop.
Yeah, you can actually come and shop.
Really good.
Yeah.
I got this blouse there. Yes,
Well,
sir.
that's awesome.
They're good, good name brands and good, and nothing is in bad shape.
Right.
And all of the money goes to the domestic shelter.
Yeah. And you know, that's something that's ran here in town, and the people in authority know where that's at, and know how to take the folks there and stuff. So if you're suffering from that kind of environment and abuse, there is hope in our community that there is a place that you can go. There is a place that will take care of you. And so you just have to. And like I say, when I was mayor, it amazed me. Because I didn't know that until I was, mayor. I didn't realize that I even lived in a community that needed an organization like that, but we do. We absolutely do, and it's just a result of the world that we live in today. Lawrence County is not unique. I would say every county in the nation has a similar problem. I'm just glad that we have an outlet that folks can come to.
Right.
Anyway, Jeff, you got anything lined up for us?
I do.
You got this time.
I have prepared for you now.
All right.
I have. So we'll take a quick break
Good
and get the weather in, and we'll be back.
I just need to take a. While I'm talking, you've done great. That's awesome.
Now remember, we are still on YouTube and Facebook.
Yeah.
Live. We're just not broadcasting. So we're good.
Not a problem.
We would like to thank you again for choosing.
It's obviously on a delay. I just saw you do your fingers.
Do what now?
It's obviously on a delay.
Just a minute.
Would it be proper? I would like to, I do a blog.
Okay.
And
So I didn't want to say anything reach out to Barb. That's going to be something you might say. I want all of that you to anything.
well, it's in the book, the information. My Gmail. I think it's in the book. Or maybe on my card.
I don't know if I read that part right.
It does mention my blog.
About 1 minute, buddy.
Based on highs in the mid to upper 80s with isolated scattered showers and thunderstorms, mainly in the afternoon and evening. Everybody's going to see rain today, though. For the this evening and overnight, partly cloudy skies, so showers early. Overnight lows in the 60s. Same for Friday. Mid to upper 80s for daytime highs. Partly sunny skies with a few isolated showers and thunderstorms, mainly in the afternoon and evening hours. It was a little bit warmer over the weekend, though.
We've seen one of those storms over my garden today.
Yeah, mine too. Is that today? It's rain today?
29 and 95, especially in northern Alabama, but not overly hot though, as we get much early next week, still staying in the mid to upper 80s. All the latest weather can be found at TN.
Thank you, Fred, and we're back with Keith Durham and guest here in the studio.
Yeah, we're back with Tom and Barb Suter, and we're talking with Barb today about a book that she has written, A Journey from Scared and Scarred to Sacred. And it's about her journey from child sexual abuse to her triumph over that through Christ and through her strong marriage and love with her husband, Tom. And glad that both of you guys are here today. We'll wrap things up. And number one, I appreciate you coming down.
Thank you for having me.
And like I say, I have read the book, and it is a great book. And you almost can't put it down when you read it.
I will say that a lady that works in the prison ministry in Nashville, and she's been in women's ministry most of her life, I think she's my age too, she says that's the best book on childhood sexual abuse she's read.
Yeah, because...
And it's not clinical, like you said.
Exactly. That's because you don't have to have a PhD to read it. You just have to have...
Simple like me.
Exactly. What about some last words before we part today? But what about folks that may need, you've got a blog, what about your blog?
Okay, yes, I have a blog. It's called, I love the word journey. So this book is called A Journey, and then my other book is Whispers on the Journey. And then my blog is called A Journey to Now.
A Journey to Now. And where do you get those blogs? I'm not a blogger, so this is new to me.
Go to A Journey to Now, all one word, .me, M-E, that's the domain. And So, so I like the word journey, because we're all on a journey, and, but I will say that,
I'm going there right now.
oh, he's going there right now. He's going there right now.
Yes.
Oh, and my Google autocorrect has tried to correct my spelling and took me to the wrong place. So
That happens.
exactly.
But you know, we all have a life. If we're breathing, we all have a life. I'm really like Frederick Buechner. He passed away last year. He's called the minister's minister and the writer's writer. But he said, he, and I quote him in my book. I use a paragraph. He says, "Listen to your life." He said, every smell, every taste, everything, it's all grace. It's all from God. And so I just love that. But my life can speak that to everybody around me, and your life as a listener can speak that too. So we all have a life, but it's the only thing we can share with somebody is our life, our experience. So if you've been abused, you know, like I said, you know, share with somebody. If not, if you just want to call me, you know. So, but it's important to share your life, your experiences with someone who loves you and who you trust.
Wow, that's what a great sentence to end that on. That's awesome. I'm looking at your blog right now, and I may need your assistance in my flower beds, because the first little sentence here says, "Pulling weeds in early morning is never a chore after a night's rain." So
that's last week's blog.
Are you available after the next rain?
Oh, I love to read after a rain. Weed after a rain.
Yeah, let me tell you, I have found the same thing through life. I try to weed my flower beds after it rains, and it makes it a lot easier. So anyway, I want to end our segment of the program saying thank you. I love you guys dearly.
Thank you.
And you've just been an inspiration to me since day one, and I want you to know how much I care for you guys. And what a great message. And hopefully this has inspired somebody listening or watching to maybe reach out and just say something and start their journey to healing. And I know we're not here to promote your book, but I'm going to promote your book because you're here.
I think we should.
And it's called A Journey from Scared and Scarred to Sacred. And it's written by Barbara Suter, and it is a first-person, real-life book.
I love how all the letters are the same.
Yeah, exactly.
It just, and I remember the morning that came to me. I just got chill bumps.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's been years. I've had that written in my journal. Then I didn't know I didn't know I'd ever write a book with that. But one day I just wrote that in my journal.
So, if you want to get into the mind of Barb Suter, come and read this book, and you can see her journal entries for probably almost 2 decades in here. It's pretty neat. So
Thank you
guys for coming by, and
Well, we've got another few minutes.
do we have a few minutes?
We
got 10 minutes.
So we're 9 minutes away from having to go. So, and
Jeff, thank you for telling me that.
I don't want you to end it too soon.
I'm not. Well, let's don't.
I don't want you to end it too soon because we may have some other questions.
Tom hasn't said a lot, so Tom, Barb and I recoup. Talk to us a little bit about your journey as a pastor, and you've had
Talk about me, honey.
Yeah, your wife is really.
I'm kidding.
I mean,
the other morning she came in and she gave me the quote that she just shared from Buechner about listen to your life. And I said, are you sure he didn't say listen to your wife?
exactly.
That's exactly what my wife would say.
Yeah.
Listen to your wife.
So I've been listening to my wife for a long time. We've been married, how long?
He's 60
59
years in
years,
March.
be 60 years
Wow.
in March. So we were teenagers, really. I was 19, almost 20 when we married. She was 18. We met in high school, our senior year, and I think she tells about that maybe in the book.
First time I saw him, I whispered to my girlfriend, and I said, I'm going to marry that fella. How did I know that?
I think there's is that y'all?
Yes.
Tom, do you remember that picture?
Yes, I do.
Where is that taken at? It looks like you're on a beach somewhere.
Yeah, we were.
We were probably, yeah.
Okay.
There are only 2 pictures of us in that book. I didn't want it to be.
But we've had a wonderful journey together.
Yeah.
Ministry has been a joy to have Barbara along beside me. I don't think I would have been near as successful without her. And she has been a constant source of joy. Her story of how she's overcome this childhood sexual abuse is just an example, really, of how she's overcome a lot of other things in life.
Yeah.
And we have 4 adult children and 13 grandchildren.
Wow.
Some great
7,
grandchildren.
8.
And they're not all perfect, obviously, you know.
Right.
People think preachers' kids are, perfect kids, but they're not. And I was a preacher's kid myself, and so was she. So
My father was a preacher.
I got a story about a preacher's kid. I'll tell you after a while. I don't want to cut you off.
yeah. But anyway, it's been a wonderful journey.
Yeah.
And we're still journeying together, and we have a good time every day, living life, and a lot of it has to do with memories. We talk about the good days we had. She'd moved back to Europe yesterday, she says, because that was such a great experience of ministry.
Yeah. So talk about your ministry in Europe for just a minute. So did you just go over there and pastor a church? But you said you were a missionary. So what did your missionary work entail?
Well,
We were with the International Mission Board.
Okay.
yeah, I was able to get a Bible study started at the United Nations building in Vienna, which houses the International Atomic Energy Commission. That's the main office there, although all the other offices are there. There's about 6,000 employees with the UN. And in order to get that, we established it as a Bible club, because the UN had all kind of clubs, golf club, tennis clubs, and all that. And in order for that club to be approved, it had to be approved by a man who worked there, and he was a Muslim, which I thought was quite interesting that we were able to get a Bible club started at the UN at the approval of a man who was a committed Muslim.
Yeah.
But people attended that. We'd have people from 45 different nations every week. And there are a lot of stories out of that study.
So we think about the mission field itself, and in general. I read a story the other day on the internet where in the North Korea, so a family, even the children were in prison because there was a Bible in their house. And so we don't think about that sometimes, and that a lot of places aren't open for not just scripture, not just talking about Christ, but scripture itself. And so you do bring up a good point there, that you were in a situation where it seemed unfavorable to have a Bible class, but yet through life, if you'll take the first step, God will prevail. He will prevail. And I just see that as a victory there when you said that. I thought that's one of those times that God prevailed.
That was started in about 2002.
Okay.
And it's still going on.
Okay.
Even though I'm not there. Someone else picked up the baton and the race goes on. That's good. Yeah,
absolutely. So Kevin, we haven't looked your way today. Kevin was working on a car whenever I was at Heritage a little bit earlier this morning, and Kevin comes in at 7:30 and goes to work, and then he comes and sort of sits with me on this radio station for a little while. And Kevin, number one, thank you for being here today.
Well, thanks for having me.
Well,
Well, I'm sorry. Did we talk too much?
no.
It's been very interesting.
So, Anyway, Kevin has been a friend of mine since childhood, and
He
they
used to pick on me.
I did not. I can't remember. I do remember where you lived. So, anyway, I want to thank everybody for being here today. On behalf of Heritage Automotive, this has been the. I'm not going to say the Keith Durham Hour because it's horrible. We got to figure out a name. So,
Well, listen, give me a few minutes and I'll come up with something.
you had like 3 weeks. So,
Well,
anyway.
you didn't like what I came up with, so I was okay.
Anyway,
We'll do it again.
I am super, I'm just, my day has started off great. I took a vacation this past week, and God revealed to me, you know, typically we as human beings wait till the end of the day to say whether we had a great day or not. And I have purposed to start every day as a great day.
Right.
And today has been a great day, and you made it even better with you guys being here and sharing your story, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's been a joy. Thank you guys for being here. All right. All right. Keith, I'm going to wrap it up. And,
Wrap it up.
9 o'clock hour is coming up, so stay tuned for more here on WDXE, AM 1370, 105.3 FM. And we'll see you next time, Keith.
See ya.
So does he do this all day?
Yeah, so well, yours starts at 6 a.m.?
Yes, thereabouts. It's changing a little bit, but yes.